Welcome to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast. I am your host, Kaylee Greenacre, a business strategist, coach, TEDx speaker, author, and your go-to woman for all things business strategy. I am obsessed with supporting female entrepreneurs to grow unstoppable six and multi-six-figure businesses that they love, giving them the freedom and life that they desire. During this podcast, I'll be sharing with you everything that you need to become a successful female entrepreneur, from the mindset shifts to sales and marketing strategies and how to become an iconic leader that people can't get enough of. It is my mission to help you stand out, attract your dream clients and customers, and sell out of your offers with ease whilst building the business and life of your dreams. Let's make this your reality, ladies. Hello, ladies, and welcome to another episode of Actually I Can, the Female Entrepreneur Podcast. And I'm joined today by the fabulous Nicky Masson, who is a business coach and mentor. And in today's episode, we are going to be diving into how to build business stability, expanding what you can hold as a female entrepreneur. Nicky, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here on the podcast today.
Thank you so much. I am very excited to have this conversation with you today.
So am I, because we know, right, that stability in business is so important. So before we dive into this topic, I think it'll be really good to introduce you properly to our audience. And if you can share a little bit about your journey and your story.
Yeah, with pleasure. So I'm Nicky. I'm a business coach and a mentor for female founders and entrepreneurs who want to kind of grow with stability, but in an impactful and sustainable way without burnout. And I very much marry a science-backed approach with strategy. So I'm working with my clients on who they are, but also giving them the skills and the tools that they need to build their businesses in a way that works for them. So it's about building businesses that feel as good as they look, basically. And I've been coaching for 8 years, nearly 9 years, actually. So been doing this for a little bit of a while, and I actually got into it because I had gone through a coaching process myself with a coach and a mentor. And at that particular time, I'd had a huge amount of mental and emotional trauma in my life, and actually was feeling really stuck. But what I realized that when I went through a coaching program and worked with somebody, that I was able to turn all of that around and actually focus on my future for the first time ever. And what I really loved at that time was the fact that it doesn't matter what your still love, is the fact that it's not about where you are, what your circumstances are, what's happened in the past, but you are able to change your life. You are able to have and be and do all of the things that you want. And that's why I love working with women and creating that transformation and that change and that growth for them. So yeah, that's why I do it.
You're very passionate about it, I know, and fully aware. You've got a lot of experience, but you're also so passionate about supporting women in getting the results and creating that impact and achieving the goals that they want. So let's dive into this topic. Really excited, because I think this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs potentially pass by and don't really think about. How can we build that stability in our business? So let's just start with, why is it so important? Why is stability in business so important, and why is it going to support people in helping them plan for the future of their business?
I think it's so important because you want something that is going to last, something that is sustainable. Like, nobody gets into business because it's a 5 minute, like literally flash in the pan thing. Like, most people want to create something, they want something meaningful, and actually they might want to build like a legacy and have something that they can pass down to their children. So by having something that is sustainable, it means that you're in it for the long term. Like, everybody can chase a quick win, and that's brilliant. But if you're consistently burnt out, or you're building something that you just can't sustain, let's just say that's working 70 hours a week, or it feels horrible, it doesn't feel nice, it doesn't feel good to run, then sooner or later you're going to start to feel frustrated. You might even start to feel resentful of the work that you're doing. But we don't want to do that. We want it to feel good for most of the time, and for it to be enjoyable. So yeah, for me, it's about looking at the big picture and looking at it long term. And yes, of course, the journey that you take might take all sorts of twists and turns to get there. But for me, it is about thinking long term rather than just something that you can have immediately. But hopefully marrying the quick wins with that long term stability as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think when you have sort of a bigger picture, when you really have a vision, a mission, but also a vision for your business, it will support you in, continuing with the mindset work, for example, and it really support you and help you with going down this pathway of stability rather than looking for quick wins. Because I think we're in a world, aren't we, at the moment, especially in the online space, we have been for a number of years now, where, it's a world that glorifies scaling fast and getting
Yeah.
quick wins. And I think it's hard to ignore that because you are put in front of so many people who are marketing, here's how you're going to make your next 10K, here's how you're going to hit 100K launch, etc., etc. So people are always looking and seeing those quick wins. So I think there's a lot of, glorified sort of aspects of that in terms of scaling fast. But what does it actually then mean to create a business that feels safe and feels sustainable to grow? Because I think that's really important, isn't it, that safety, to really make sure that people are, again, setting themselves up for the future with that bigger picture.
Yeah, definitely. Well, to me, stability is all about what you can hold and how you can hold it with the most ease and the most simplicity. So we've got obviously your finances, we've got business growth, you've got your clients, you've got your health, you've got relationships, you've got social life. There's all these different aspects of your life. And if you've got an area that isn't performing quite as well as the others, what it does is it brings these top performing areas down. So you could have you could be making loads and loads of money, but maybe your health is suffering. Or you could have an amazing social life, but maybe your business growth isn't quite where you want it to be. And so stability to me is about looking at all of the different areas and being equally able to hold them all really, really well. And looking at the areas that perhaps aren't performing quite so well as the others and being able to build them up so that everything, yeah, so like I was saying before, it's about holding it all with that ease and simplicity. It's not always about it being easy all of the time, but with as much ease and simplicity as you possibly can. And looking at that everything holistically, or looking at it all as a whole rather than just working on one area and thinking that that's the only important area to look at, i.e., like you say, chasing those money wins. If that's the only thing we focus on, there's all of this other stuff that we're kind of leaving and not paying it attention, and that can also be impacting so many other different things. So yeah, stability is about it feeling good as well.
Yeah.
Because we can often be doing things and focusing on things and it doesn't feel good, and we know it doesn't feel good, but we keep plugging away at it and we keep pushing because we think that's what we should be doing, or we're seeing other people do it, and that again, that might be chasing that next big money win or whatever that thing is. Often though, when you get those big wins, it doesn't necessarily change anything inside of you. So those feelings that you've already been experienced, that discomfort, any kind of negative feelings, they end up still being there because you haven't solved what's kind of going on internally.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a really good point, actually. And I think through my own experience, when you hit certain, let's say, sort of mini targets or milestones, even in your business, if you're looking at, revenue or how many clients you bring in or anything along those lines, I think it's so easy to then go right on to the next thing, right on to the next thing, right? What's next? What am I doing next? And I'm massively guilty of this. This is what I have done for many moons, for my whole life, actually, in my career previously, my previous business. And in this business at the beginning stages, I used to do that. And it wasn't until I sat down and then strategically, when you look at the entire year, and like you said, the bigger picture, really focus on what is that bigger picture and actually what is the impact I want to create. Because the wins and the milestones, they are fabulous. Absolutely, we should celebrate every single one of those and continue then to look at that bigger picture. What is the ultimate impact that we're wanting to create? How are we wanting to transform or help people? What does that look like? And I think that really helps us then, doesn't it, with that, having that sustainability as such in our business, because it keeps us focused, but it doesn't overwhelm us, but also it makes sure that we're kind of blanking out all of these, again, these big wins and things that are happening in the online space, and really making sure that we're focused on the one direction that we're wanting to go in.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that is definitely what it's about, isn't it? It's about you knowing where you want to go and staying on that path and not getting too blinkered and not getting too sidetracked, because there's always going to be like the next shiny object to take,
Yeah.
and to find that win. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's helping you to stay on the right track and create the impact that you're here to make. So you almost have to shut out a lot of the noise and just bring it all the time back to you, what you're here to do, what you're here to create, the impact you're here to make, and figure out the best and the easiest and the most simplest route to go out and deliver that.
Yeah.
And that is going to make you feel good. And that's going to be the thing that is going to create that stability, because you're not running in all these different directions. You're not like literally doing one thing one week and then moving on to something else and then something else, which is very tempting when there's all these ideas out there, and we all do it. But yeah, the stability comes from the ease, and the flow and the momentum. And like I said before, being able to hold it all, because there's no point in having all of this success in business, but then you've got issues in your personal life or your health is majorly suffering. So we want it all to work together and it all to support each other. That to me is what, like, having great stability means.
Yeah, and that's a great point as well in terms of, you don't want your health to suffer or your well-being or anything along those lines. And again, through my own experience, it definitely has previously. I think because when you're so focused on your business, and I'm sure there's listeners listening to this podcast right now thinking, gosh, yeah, that's me. I'm letting my health suffer, or my well-being suffer, or my social life suffer, whatever it is, because I'm putting every single bit of effort and energy into my business. Great that you're so focused, so motivated, so driven, but actually that's going to massively impact the overall effectiveness of the business and performance anyway.
It really is. And it's not saying like don't be any less driven, like
Of
that
course.
isn't, yeah. So I would never sit here and go, oh, like stop doing all these things like you're working really hard towards.
Yeah.
But actually it's about listening to your body, and our bodies and our minds are very good at giving us clues and information. Like it will tell you literally if something is out of alignment, because you'll either feel it, and it'll either be like emotional, or you're going to feel it in your body like physically. But what most people do is they ignore those signs
Mhm.
until it gets too late, and that's when we start to experience things like burnout.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's being able to still be driven and have all those things that you want, but in a more sustainable way. So it's how do we get to those things and we're still motivated and we're driven and we want those goals, but we do it in a way that's easy to manage and isn't going to impact on all the other stuff like health and relationships. So I definitely think it's listening to the signs, because your body will give you a clue. But a lot of the work that I do with my clients is actually focusing on like tasks and activities that create the biggest results.
Yeah.
So, because it's often not that people are doing necessarily the wrong things, but quite often it might be that they're doing things in the wrong order and sequence. So, by getting clarity on how you get to your goal, means you're going to get there in the easiest and shortest route possible.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, avoiding that kind of burnout trail, so you can still have all those things, but also it's creating space for everything else. And so other things aren't going to be impacted in the process of getting that goal or that next big win.
Yeah, so having that real clarity and then obviously creating that space, because I think that's another thing that's a really interesting one is, capacity. Some people, and I'm sure there'll be, again, people listening to this podcast who will probably be at maximum capacity in all aspects of business, energy, life, all of the things. And, we talk about trying to build a sustainable business, but if they're at maximum capacity, what can they do? So is there any advice that you would advise those that are already there? So say, for example, there's probably a number of coaches and service providers that are doing sort of done for you services, or maybe one-to-one coaching or mentorship, and they're probably at max capacity for sort of hours of work. How can they, I don't want to say reverse engineer, but ultimately, how can they shift this to make sure that they are doing the things to move them more towards a sustainable business?
Yeah. So one thing is looking at like the type of work that they're doing and when they're doing it and how they're doing it. So like I was kind of saying before, sometimes we're doing things in the wrong order and sequence.
Yeah.
So it's about looking at like, what are you doing and when are you doing it? Because actually shifting around your approach and how you do things can make a big difference to your productivity and your output. And I'll give you an example of this. So what most business owners do is they put off like money making activity. So income generating tasks. They'll put those off because it feels like challenging or a bit icky, or they don't want to do it. So they might put on that on their to-do list, but that just keeps sliding into the future. So it doesn't get done today. So it slides into to tomorrow. Tomorrow something else takes priority. And so it keeps sliding into the future, and then months and years might have passed and they're not experiencing the growth or the revenue that they want or the impact that they want. So changing that up and actually prioritizing it in different order. So making sure you focus on those income generating tasks first, for example, means you could spend 20 minutes doing that in the morning.
Yeah. Yeah.
And therefore you've done that task, it's out of the way, and then you could have actually had a big impact rather than kind of being really, really busy all day long, but it had little to no impact.
Yeah.
So that's just one example, but it's about fine tuning what you're doing, really looking at your approach as to how you do things, because there can be a lot of time that you could free up and a lot of capacity that you can free up just by doing things in a different order and sequence.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point, and great advice as well in terms of that, and just really breaking it up, looking at the sequences and looking at habits. I think sometimes as well, from sort of again my experience, but also what I support my clients with, sort of looking at habit stacking, looking at your daily routine, and it sort of ties into what you were saying there, but actually just really looking at what is it that you can do consistently in your business to keep it going little and often, little and often, little and often. So it kind of links all to consistency as well, doesn't it? To kind of really keep that momentum building as such, but also the energy high and keeping you on track for basically the goals that you're working towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the most important thing is that you actually invest time into yourself, because you are your most important asset. So if you're constantly giving to your business, but you're never giving to yourself, then you are going to burn out and you are going to feel resentful of what you're doing, because you have only got like so much capacity. Whereas if you work on yourself and you make sure that you're a priority consistently, you energize yourself.
Yeah.
And we need, like, as entrepreneurs, we need a lot of energy. Like, we need a lot of fuel in the tank to do all of these incredible things that we want to do. And our energy gets depleted. So at the start of the day, we are naturally more energized, like our brains are more energized because we've had a good rest. And it makes sense to do things that require more energy at the beginning of the day. At the end of the day, we get more fatigue. So our brains get really, really tired. So do things that don't require as much energy, but think about like, how can you re-energize yourself all the time, and what does that look like for you? Is it stepping away from your desk, going for a walk, like doing things just for you and feeding into yourself first? So it's those kind of things that really help you to maintain everything that you're doing and hold everything that you're doing in your business a lot more easier. And again, that creates that stability because it's much more doable. Like, if you go from one part of your day to the other to the next, so you might have like kids that you're getting ready for school in the morning, like you've probably already done a day's work before you've even sat down at your desk sometimes. So if you go from that straight into work and then straight back into like picking up your kids and then straight into housework and whatever, you are literally going through the day and you're probably fatigued before 9 o'clock in the morning. So how can you compartmentalize each different section of the day so that you can go all in and fully focus on that one thing? Like if you're with your kids, be fully focused on the time that you've got with your kids. And then do whatever you need to do to re-energize yourself, compartmentalize that morning, and then think about like how do I want to feel? What kind of energy do I need to be in for this next part of the day? Maybe it's delivering a client call or putting together a sales page or whatever it is. Like, what kind of energy do you want to be in to help you to get through that thing effectively? And then do that thing. So maybe it's dancing to your favorite song or going for a walk. Like, I love to go for walks. That's my thing.
Me too. Bit of fresh air, walk the
Yeah.
dog, and just get out there in the open. Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, I think we can take control over quite a lot of things in terms of how we think, how we feel and behave. So just making a few adjustments like that can have a big impact on not only how you feel, but also your output and what you're able to create as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And you are, or we all are, in full control of our lives, of our days, of our time, of our energy, aren't we? And I really like that advice that you're giving our listeners to really think about, at the end of the day, how are we going to get the most out of today? And we don't just mean how are we going to cram the most in. We're meaning how are we going to make the most of today for ourselves, for our clients, for our community, for everything that we want to achieve, for our health. And I really like that. I think, time blocking and chunking and things like that are always really, really effective. And I think everyone's different, aren't they, as well, with, how to utilize their time. This has definitely come up in my Unstoppable program, actually, with a couple of my clients in terms of time management and time blocking and sort of what's the best thing to do when you've got a list of like 100 things and you think, and your mind probably goes into a little bit of like anxiety. There's lots of pressure and you're thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get through this list. So I think it is really about managing, first of all, isn't it? Managing your nervous system and your mindset, really focusing on your mindset, and then looking at priorities, time management, time blocking, and like you said, really finding some opportunities during that day to make sure that you're really focused on how you can maximize your full potential, your energy, and like getting out, going for walks, whether it's dancing around the kitchen, whether it's whatever people enjoy doing, it doesn't matter, does it? But it's a case of just really looking at what's going to be the most impactful for you.
Yeah, definitely. And exactly what you said, it's different for everybody. And it really is about finding how you operate best. Like, how can you show up as your best self? And having these kind of tools in your back pocket are the things that just keep you energized, they keep you focused, they keep you being able to show up and deliver all of these things, deliver and be there, like be the best businesswoman that you can be the best like person to your clients, be the best parent, all of these kind of things. It's having that there, and I think it links so well with stability, because this is what helps to create that stability and keeps you on track and helps you to keep going for that long term, like we've talked about.
Yeah.
We can all put like extra hours in on a short term basis, and we're business people, like we have to do that occasionally, but that's not really practical or easy to sustain over a long period of time. So these are the kind of things that help us to enjoy what we're doing, but be able to keep going with consistency.
Absolutely. And we've talked there about, sort of structure, time management, our energy. And I suppose when we're looking at really creating or building, stability in our business, we have to think about that structure, have to think about the systems, for example.
Yeah.
But how do we then integrate that and really focusing on that without killing our creativity and our flow? Because I think there's another part to business, isn't there, where we've got to put on the creative hat and
Yeah.
create content, go live, do all of these fabulous things, which hopefully everyone loves doing and enjoys doing. But you've got to get that balance, right? And how do you do that? How do you get this sustainable business with systems, structure, processes, time blocking, all of this stuff, which is really important, but without killing that creative flow?
Yeah. Do you know what? I think this is one thing that a lot of women and a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with. Like, they think that if they have systems and processes in place, that it will kill their creativity. So there's a little bit of a block, and they're like, no, I just want to go and create and go with the flow. And that's great. But actually, having systems and processes frees up your time to be more creative
Yes.
and to go with the flow. So it's about thinking about, well, how can I do this easier, quicker, better for myself and my clients, so that I can then go and do the things that I'm really good at or that I enjoy, which might be creating content, or it might be, whatever it is that you're showing up to create, and how you're creating an impact, the work that you're doing with your clients. Like, it frees up more of your time and your capacity and your energy to do that. Whereas if you're running everything like manually, or you're trying to do everything yourself, it's no wonder you're kind of tying yourself up in circles, because like we are wearing all the hats.
Yeah.
And it is a lot to hold sometimes. So I would say to anybody, is like, look at how you're doing things now and look at what you would like to improve, like what could be done faster, better, easier, and then focus on improving that thing. And once that thing is improved, then move on to something else. So you're always consistently making these improvements and changes. You're always moving forwards.
Yeah. No, that's great advice. And I think as well with, with constantly looking, reviewing, analyzing, and then refining ultimately, your systems, your processes, your approach basically to business. I think that will really, really support and help people. And I think going back to or touching back on the creative flow side of things as well. And I know again, this has come up for one of my clients, or a couple of my clients actually previously, because when you're in a creative flow, you want to be creative and you want to, focus on whatever project it is specifically that you're working on at the time. And I often say to people as well, find that time, based on what you were saying earlier about, you will be most energized normally in the morning because you're waking up, etc. I always find that my creative flow for content absolutely is in the morning. So therefore I block out the whole of Tuesday morning. Tuesday morning is my creative time, and it's where I will sit and write content. I record my podcasts normally on a Tuesday or a Wednesday morning because it is, again, the opportunity for me to be creative, to express, to interview fabulous people like yourself, and to really feel passionate and engaged with what I'm doing. So I think it's about, using a schedule, system, approach, but actually then saying, right, when am I most creative and how do I want to build this into my business more? And is there a certain time that would be better and more beneficial for me to do it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's knowing that about yourself, isn't it? It's having the self-awareness to know this is when I work best.
Yeah.
But also the self-awareness to know if something isn't working and isn't clicking. Because what a lot of people do is they just keep going. They know something doesn't feel right or it's not the best way of doing it, but they keep doing it because they feel like maybe they should do it that way. But having that ability to change things up and go, no, I'm going to do it a different way and I'm going to test this and then see what the results or the impact of doing it this way are. I think that that's incredible. But like you say, you can marry that approach with how you work best with a system to get it done. Like, you work best creatively in the morning, and you're going to marry it with a system, i.e. time blocking it on a Tuesday to make sure you get it done. So that's easy then to put the two and two together, and it works really well. So a prime example of creativity meeting a system.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, listening to yourself and not worry about other people are doing. I think this is such a good point to make. You've said there is, it doesn't matter what other people are doing. It doesn't matter how people do things. This is your business. You are creating the future vision that you hold. And therefore, if it means creating content on a Tuesday morning or at midnight, whatever floats your boat, whatever goes, whatever works, it's about, again, really making sure that you're leaning into, well, you're listening to your own body, but then leaning into ultimately what feels good for you, right?
Yes, definitely. I think you need to have a lot of self-trust, don't you, as
Yeah.
well, as a business owner, because often you are going first, you are leading yourself. And yes, you might work with coaches and mentors, but ultimately it is down to you to decide what you want to do and how you want to do it. And you need to really trust yourself to just go, I'm doing this and this is the way I want to do it. And I'm going to figure this out. And I find that there's just something really empowering about that, which I love. Like, I love that we get that. We get to do that.
100%. And how do people, have you got any advice around sort of protecting people's energy and emotions, I suppose, as well? Because I think with building a business, with growing, with scaling, there's a lot of energy involved. A lot of our energy that we give to our businesses, of course, we're passionate about them, but there can be points, can't there, where we feel, again, maxed out, we feel a little bit overwhelmed, potentially a little bit anxious. Is there any advice that you can give in terms of how people can really protect their energy?
Yeah, so a couple of things. The first one is boundaries. Like, I think it's so important to have boundaries. And they could be boundaries in the work that you're doing, they could be boundaries with clients, they could be boundaries with your family. In all areas of your life, you want to have some level of protection that means that you're not being pulled in loads of different directions. Like, if you don't want to work after 5 p.m., communicate that clearly to your clients so everybody's singing from the same page. So, it's so easy to get caught into this trap of like, I'm always available, I'm always on all of the time, but that doesn't serve you and it really doesn't serve the people that you're working with. So, deciding what's important to you and then put those boundaries in place to protect your time and to protect your energy. But more importantly, you have to stick to the boundaries.
Yes.
Because if you break your own boundaries, then you're going to be in direct conflict with yourself. So you've got to look out for that as well. And the second thing is really about listening to your body and understanding what's coming up. So if there's a certain feeling like a fear or a doubt, it's pay attention to it. Understand, like, where's this coming from? What's the trigger? Is there any truth to how I'm feeling? And that's going to give you clues, it's going to give you information, and then you can go and work on solving that thing, because literally everybody has fears, everybody has doubts, like it's normal. In fact, the closer that you get to a goal that you're looking to achieve, the more these things are going to start coming up to the surface. So like, just pay attention, but listen to what your body is telling you, and then you can work on resolving those things.
Fantastic. Some great advice. Final question then. Is there any final advice that you would give to our listeners if they're looking to either grow or potentially even scale that stability within their business? What is your final piece of advice to them?
I would say, like, regardless of the level that you're at or what you want to achieve, is like, focus on what's most important to you, and what you want your life to look like. And that will be completely unique to you. So if you, like an example I just used a minute ago, if you don't want to ever work past 5, or you never want to work a weekend day, or you always want to take Fridays off, like, build your life around what is most important and what's meaningful to you, because again, that's going to be sustainable. Like, don't start working 70-hour weeks if that's so far away from your values. Like, start how you mean to go on, because then you can scale that. Whereas if you start one way, it's not as easy to then change it.
Yeah, that's great advice. Really focusing on themselves, what they want, really looking at how they want their life to be, how they want their business to look and to feel, and starting from there and starting to then work forwards.
Absolutely. And yes, it might change over time. That's totally fine. But always just bring it back to, what do I want? What do I want it to look like? What do I want it to feel like?
Yeah.
And then work on making that the reality every day.
Amazing. Great advice. I really, really have enjoyed this conversation, Nicky. It's been fantastic. And I really hope that our listeners will take some great things away from this to really think about and to obviously implement and apply into their own business structure, strategy, ultimately to kind of really grow that stability in their business into the future. Thank you so, so much. Where can our listeners find you and connect with you?
So the best place that I like to hang out is on Instagram. So I am Nicky Masson Global over there. I am also on LinkedIn as well. I'm Nicky Masson over there. So please come and connect, come and say hi. I love to have conversations. I love getting to know who I'm connected with. So yeah, come and say hello.
Amazing. All of Nicky's links and bios in the show notes. So go and give her a follow, go and connect with her, drop her a message, say hello. She's incredible at what she does. And Nicky, once again, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast today.
Well, so welcome. It's been lovely. Thank you for having me.
Thanks to everyone that's tuned into today's episode. Please don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to the podcast. And I'll see you all again next time. Thank you for tuning in to the Actually I Can Female Entrepreneur podcast with me, your host, Kaylee Greenacre. If you are ready to build, grow, and scale your dream 6-figure or multi-6-figure business, then head to our website now for more information, or connect with me on socials to see how you can create your dream business and dream life.